ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, we welcome everyone for today's morning program, morning reading. All right. So we are reading from the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, starting with 12th verse, which is the last verse in discussion of Karma Yoga. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shantim apnoti nashtikim ayuktaha kamakarena phale sakto nibadyate. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace. We were discussing yesterday how to perform Karma Yoga. And in that discussion, from 7th verse to 12th, this is the last verse. So when one acts with the controlled mind and senses and is being detached from the results of his work, and he performs his action for the purpose of purification, what happens? Yukta karma phalam tyakta. He has given up. He is detached from the results of his action. What happens then? The result is the 4th point, Shantim apnoti nashtikam. Nashtikam means unadulterated, undisturbed Shanti attains. Apnoti attains. Ayuktaha kam karena. Without any desires, phale sakto nibadhyate, towards the result. Particularly, Krishna is focusing on Krishna result. How many of you agree? Although it may sound like repetition. अरे बोला ना एक बार, हल्के वती आसक्त नहीं रहने का है, बार बार काय बोलने का है, कितनी बार भी सुन लो, attachment of the felt doesn't go, because we are conditioned, literally like we are made up with this statement, what's in for me? First, tell me the result, then I'll do the thing. So the steadily devoted soul attains transcendental, unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is ayuktaha, not union, kamakarena, greedy, phale sakto nibadhyate, for the fruits of his labor, nibadhyate. Nibadhyate means he becomes bound. The difference between a person Krishna conscious and a person body consciousness is that the former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. The person who is attached to Krishna works for him, only certainly every person, and he has no anxiety over the results of his work. In the Bhagavatam, the cause of anxiety over the results of an activity is explained as being once functioning in the conception of duality, that is, without knowledge of the absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the personal Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality, which means there is no confusion whom I am serving. Even just about the subject of whom I am serving, in our material life, people are so confused. किसकी सेवा कर रहा हूं मैं? समाज की, परिवार की, स्वयं की? जवाब दो, नहीं पता होगा. That's the reason duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy, and Krishna is all good. Therefore, activities in Krishna consciousness are all on the absolute plane. They are transcendental, have no material effect. One is therefore filled with peace in Krishna consciousness, but one who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Realization that there is no existence besides Krishna is a platform of peace and fearlessness. Shantim apnoti nashtikam. So now Arjuna may wonder, my dear Lord, very easy for you to say. You're neither the king, and you're already married to 16,108 wives, and you don't have any, you have an unrivaled kingdom. Now for you to say, be detached, doesn't behoove, doesn't suit, isn't it? Arjuna के point, like if Duryodhan was here at this point, बोलता अच्छा बहुत बोल रहा है, 16,108 रानी को तो शादी हो चुकी है ना, अब से 15 साल पहले, 89 years was Krishna when this conversation is going on. And that whole thing of Krishna releasing the queens would happen when the Pandavas were in, Indraprastha. So that all happened long ago, 15 years before Rajasi, around Rajasi Yajna. So now Krishna in 13th is onward to tell Arjuna why you should not be attached to the results of your work. Why? Because you're not the doer. There are three doers. For example, I'll speak a little bit about it. We'll take a look into it. Whatever happens, it begins with a desire. We are sitting in this building, which means somebody must have had a desire. Now, many people would have desire to have an apartment, but actually somebody had a desire to build this building. Not everyone has a capacity to build a building. So somebody had a desire to build a building. Now, even in that, many people would have a desire to build a building, want to get into business. Not everyone is able to successfully build it. But one is able to successfully build it, whoever is the owner of this society or the builder. I mean, Kumar Builders or something like that. So if you look back in your life, there are so many desires, so many wants. Yes or no? But some wants gets fulfilled, some wants just does not get fulfilled. It just does not get. And we keep on changing our wants from this want to that want. Even the want that get fulfilled, if you keep your hand at your heart and ask yourself, did it really happen because of me? Or it just happened? For example, let's say getting a promotion at times. Sometimes people may feel because I really worked hard. At times people get promotion, they know that other person than I worked very hard. I was not doing anything, yet I got promotion. How many of you have that experience? Even you get a job sometimes which was meant for a 5-year more experienced person, but you got a job and you're wondering, "Arey, job kaise mil gaya?" But you wanted a promotion, you wanted a job, but you get it. And you're wondering, really, did I do something? But we are put into such an ignorance in today's day and time because everyone is told, or the society today teaches, you are the owner of the body, you are the controller, you are the enjoyer. So anything good happens, immediately want to take a credit. Immediately want to take a credit because that consciousness we just cannot understand. Even it is so easy to understand that we are not the doer. If I say I'm the doer, then why I'm not able to fulfill all my desires? Okay, if I ask you a question, out of 100%, how many think how much percentage of your desires have got fulfilled until now? 99%? Impossible. इतनी तो ब्रह्मा की भी नहीं होती होंगी. जीवात्मा का तो भूल ही जाओ. 50%? Now let's say 49% you lost your control. 51% somebody is the owner. 49% no. 25% your desires got fulfilled. Really? इतना बुरा जीवन रहा है. 10% सन्नाटा क्यों छाया हुआ है? हमारे ऑनलाइन भक्त क्या कह रहे हैं? हाँ भाई, कितनी इच्छाएं पूर्ति हुई आप लोगों की? 5% what you have dreamt until now? 5% भी all right. Those who raise hands for 5%, their hands have been pulled down by the others. Hey, मूर्ख हो गया? 5%? ठीक है. 1%? How many will say 1% desires got fulfilled? Come on. Either you're being too humble or you're getting to the reality. Not even 0.1% desires have been fulfilled. Even 0.1% is too much. 0.001% desires are not fulfilled. Because day in, day night, we keep desiring. So many unlimited desires. So who fulfill? That's the subject matter, very important. It's so easy to understand. Well, some still finding it difficult to understand. They think that 5% desire is over, huh? Are we? Anyways, the moment you say less than 50%, which means, you're not the controller, right? Isn't it? Let's take a look. Text number 13 onward. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna kare. When the embodied living beings controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he simply resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the metal body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Krishna is giving an analogy, comparing the body to you can call it as a city. Krishna calls it a city, which is made up of 9 gates. Puppet. The embodied soul lives in the city of 9 gates. The activities of the body or the figurative city of the body are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. Very interesting. Now, the city does not operate according to you. You are just a resident in the city. The city operates accordingly. So how does this body operate? Body is, first of all, is not a gift of your mother and father. Your mother, father have no clue about what happens at the time of copulation. Body is a gift of modes of material nature. It's a combination of sattvagun, rajagun, tamagun, because of which this body is created. The soul, although subjecting himself to the condition of the body, can be beyond those conditions, if he so desires. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position, thus come out of his embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life, in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of 9 gates. In such a controlled life, in which his deliberations are changed. What a beautiful language Prabhupada is using. Or deliberations in the sense his efforts or his thinking, which means rather than thinking that I'm going to enjoy the results of my work, rather he's just going through with his life, performing his duties with detachment or without attachment to the results of his action. The 9 gates are mentioned as follows. Navadvare pure dehi hamso lelayate vahi vashi sarvasya lokasya sthavarasya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality Godhead is a living within the body of a living entity, is a control of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, anus, and genital. The living entity in its conditioned stage identifies himself with the body. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. Which means just like you're sitting in the vehicle and you identify with the vehicle, rather than identifying with the Lord who is residing in your heart. Isn't it interesting? Now, if you just elaborating on this analogy, at any given point of time, we have an option to identify with 2 things. We are in constant touch with 2 things in this particular form. One, with the body, let's call as a car, and second, with the Paramatma, right? There are 3 things right now: Paramatma, Atma, and the body. Body refers to subtle body and gross body. Now, this can be compared to like sitting in a vehicle. So you are sitting in a vehicle, and there is another person sitting along within a vehicle who had been your best well-wisher, who had been your best friend. He is the one who has even brought a car for you. Vehicle is not yours. He is the one who has got a car as a gift for you. He is the one who does everything for you. And he's sitting right next to you. But you ignore him entirely. However, you're more concerned about the car. This example would be more relevant in today's time in terms of smartphone. You understand smartphone? People sit on a dinner table, but they don't talk to each other. They talk on smartphone, right? So the person who loves you so much, you ignore him, but you're busy playing with your smartphone. This is what is the situation. This is the dilemma or irony which is being expressed here. How can you? The smartphone is also given by that person to you who loves you so much, and that is meant to be used. But out of ignorance, we are getting abused. That is the point which is mentioned here. That's the quotation, Shweta Ashwatthara Upanishad. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and inner activities. Now, very interesting usage of word Krishna conscious person, which means the individual is conscious of his dearmost friend, who is Krishna. So imagine again, we are sitting on a dinner table. If I extend the example, we are sitting on a dinner table. I have been gifted a smartphone by the friend who's sitting right opposite to me. He has given me everything, but I'm so busy looking into my smartphone that I'm not even conscious of his presence. Whereas on the another table, dinner table, let's say, there are 2 friends sitting, and the one friend has a smartphone, but he is conscious that there is friend of mine. That is called Krishna conscious. Is it making sense? So what has happened in our situation? We are too much caught up with matter wherein we have forgotten that Krishna is there. But Krishna conscious person knows the matter exists, but he also knows the source of matter and source of I. Krishna is there. Text number 14. Na kartatvam na karmani lokasya srajati prabhu na karma phala samyogam savavastu pavartate. This is almost equivalent to prakriti kriyamani guna karmani sarvasha ahankara mudatma kartam iti manate. This is almost equivalent to that verse here. I'll not go into Sanskrit, let's go with translation purpose. The embodied spirit master the city of his body, does not create activities. Prakriti kriyamanani. Who creates? Prakriti creates. Nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. What is that verse? Karmane vadikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachan. You don't have the right, you do not create the results of your action also. All this is enacted by modes of material nature. So, prakritiya kriyamanani gudha karmani sarvashaha. Parantu ahankara vimudasta kartaham iti manyate. But a foolish person considers himself to be the doer. Purport. The living entity, as well explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies of nature of the Lord, distinct from matter, which is another nature called inferior. Some other superior nature, which is Jivatma, has been in contact with the material nature since time immemorial. This is another brilliant use of Prabhupada's vocabulary. Now, we have heard memorials. How many of you heard before this immemorial? Isn't it? I don't know if Prabhupada coined this word. We all heard memorial, immemorial, and time immemorial. The temporary body of the material dwelling place which he obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and the resultant actions. Karmana deva naitrena. Living in such a conditioned atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself with the body. If you have to look at it, the way these days Hollywood movies are made, not these days, have been made for the last 10, 20 years like that. So the point of living in such a conditional environment, you remember those sci-fi movies, how they would show the living in such a conditional environment or atmosphere, if we focus on that, one suffers the results of its activities of the body, which means it's just like we're going to Rajasthan now. So where? Maybe in Udaipur, we'll show you a puppet show, So our life in this world is just like I forgot the museum where there's a beautiful puppet show goes on. So what is there? There is a big platform there, and the puppets come there, and the puppets begin to act. So when I went for the first time, I went a little late in the show. So I didn't understood what's happening. Kya chal raha hai? I saw some toys jumping up and down, boom, 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 karke, ye sab. And then you realize actually there are people controlling the puppets. So imagine yourself, think about you're watching a puppet show, there is a whole stage, and you are an audience, and you see some people come on the stage, act in certain way, whatever the story has been decided, they do that. The story was also not decided by the puppets. Somebody else has decided story, somebody else is making them to work. And you are not only an observer, but you also have the sense, that this is puppet, which means there is somebody else controlling. And then when the show ends, the curtain falls, the puppeteers comes out with the hands, the ropes are tied to their hands, the strings are tied to the hand, and they move the puppets. Now take this example in our current life. This is what is happening here. We are the puppets. Who is the puppeteer? 3 modes of material nature. The puppeteers are 3 modes of material nature. In the conditional life, which means everything is already orchestrated, everything is already set. Just like those puppets come into a particular environment. Similarly, all of us are born into a particular environment, to particular parents, to a particular land, a particular nation, in a particular religion, in a particular gender, with a particular kind of a body and intelligence. The environment is set, the stage is set, we come there, we do our drama for a while, and then the drama ends. That is what Prabhupada is saying. Where was I? The conditional atmosphere. This is conditional. Atmosphere means the stage. One suffers the results of his activities, identifying himself with that. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is a cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. As long as he is in the city of the 9 gates, or city of the body, he appears to be the master of it, but actually he is neither as proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. Imagine you just somehow you manage to give life to those puppets. So now the puppets don't have life. But imagine now you invest life in those puppets. Even after investing life, puppeteers are still controlling them. But imagine within the audience sitting, you clap now for their performance. Because you clap for the performance, the puppets may begin to think, how nicely I acted. Yes or no? That is what is happening with us. When people acknowledge our work, we say, how wonderful I did. When people do not acknowledge, we become distressed. So imagine if the life is invested to those puppets. Some claps for them, they think, what a great performance I did. And somebody does not clap for them, they will become distressed. But they're not understanding their happiness, distress is not in their control. Their performance, what good performance, bad performance they're doing, they're already controlled by the modes of material nature. Unless they cut the strings. Unless they cut the strings, they cannot really enjoy because everything has been orchestrated like that. The waves of the ocean are tossing him and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all the turmoil. Text number 15. So text number 14 says, no action is done by an individual, it's all done by modes of material nature. Na datte kasachit papam na chaivasu kritam vibhuhu ajnanenavritam jnanam tena mohyanti jantavaha. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings are bewildered because of ignorance which covers their inner. Oh, does it mean whatever the puppet does, the owner of this puppet show is responsible for it? No, not at all. Not at all. You chose to get your hands and legs tied by the puppeteer. You decide to come onto the stage of life. You decide to give your freedom at the hands of puppeteers. You cannot blame the puppet show owner for that. That's what. So Krishna is not. He has given the stage. He has got the puppeteers. And you have chosen happily to be part of the stage show. You cannot blame Krishna. And Krishna is giving you the knowledge. The owner of this whole world is giving you the knowledge how to come off that stage live. But no, we want to be there on the stage. That is the point here. Papa, the Sanskrit word Vibhu means the Supreme Lord is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, etc. He's always satisfied. So, who is Krishna is being described here? A few lines before. Living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge, nevertheless is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu, omniscient, but the living entity is anuatomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. But the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is a constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the super soul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes, God disposes. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being natural to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. That's the point being mentioned here. Looking at the meaning of the verse here, the living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell as a cloud is driven by the air. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, Satchitananda, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. Very beautiful. So what's happening here? Living entity, Paramatma, and Prakriti. The relationship between these three has been discussed. Living entity, which means we as an individual only have one right, only have one independence, that is to desire. Now the fulfillment of the desire depends on Paramatma. It is Paramatma who sanctions rejects. How does Paramatma sanction reject? Now there has to be law governing that. Otherwise people will start blaming Paramatma. They'll say, Arey, सबकी इच्छा परमात्मा करता है तो मतलब परमात्मा responsible. No, it's not like that. So Lord has created a law of karma. According to your karmic balance account, then Paramatma is sanctioned, which means even a terrorist who blows up the lives of innocent people, that action has been sanctioned. Nothing in this world happens without sanction. Now you may say, Arey, how can Lord be so cruel? Why is he sanctioning? Therefore Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I've got nothing to do with the activities of this world. We have discussed in the third chapter. This will be repeated many times. That I have got nothing to do with the action and reaction of this world. I have given you the stage. I have given you the puppeteer, the three modes of material nature. Now you as puppets can decide to live harmoniously if you so desire. If you want to fight with each other, the puppeteer will facilitate. I've got nothing to do with it. You choose your life, what you want to. So the freedom has been given to an individual, to all the living entities. Otherwise, there is no meaning of life. There's no meaning of consciousness or a sentient being. But problem with all of us, we have misused our free will. That's the whole thing. And what we have to do is now fix our misused free will and align it with the service of the Lord, so we can save ourselves from the suffering and the concomitant factors which will arise because of wrong actions, sinful reactions, etc., etc. And when Paramatma sanctions based on a karmic account balance, then he instructs material nature Prakriti. This body is made up of Prakriti, this world is made up of Prakriti, and then Prakriti fulfills the desire for us, making us move to the desired object, making our hands move to get the desired object and enjoy the desired object. Let's say gulab jamun for that reason. All being done through the modes of material nature. That is what is the point. And what only thing we can do is desire. So Bhagavad Gita, if you look at it one way, the most essential teaching of Bhagavad Gita is desire management. People talk about time management, stress management. Nobody talks about desire management. Only Bhagavad Gita talks about desire management. Text number 16. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam yesha nashitam atmanah tesham aditya vajnanam prakashyati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which these science is destroyed, then this knowledge reveals everything as a sun lights up everything in the daytime. There are few analogies are given repeatedly. For example, the situation of a living entity is compared to a cloud. Just like cloud is helplessly driven away by the wind, right? Wherever the place the cloud is formed, from there it comes helplessly drifted to the city. Cloud does not have capacity to move. Wherever the winds take it, it takes away. Similarly, we are in conditional nature. Second thing, freedom from this conditional life is also explained in relation to sun. We are right now covered in ignorance. But as soon as the sunrise happens, ignorance automatically disappears. There is no struggle. Ignorance automatically. Even before you see the sunrise or you see the sun, ignorance has dissipated because there is now light. Similarly, when Krishna consciousness awakens, in other words, again go back to the table, dinner table, we have been too much caught up with the smartphone. But the moment we become conscious, oh no, Krishna is sitting there, or let's call your dear friend is sitting there, that itself begins your journey back to Godhead. That's the point I'm mentioning. You don't have to do anything. That itself is a point mentioned here. As a big purport, let's take a look how much we can read it. Text number 16. Let's read in the middle of the purport. The living entity, 5-6 lines below, or let's say 10 lines before actually in the purport. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. That's called Mayavadi. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience of Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out a bona fide guru. Under him, learning what Krishna consciousness, for Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nescience, as the sun drives away darkness. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not his body, but is transferred to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and supersoul. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect bona fide spiritual master. One can know God, one's relation to God, only when one actually meets a representative of God. Like that has been discussed. Text number 17. So, now, result of those who meditate on Paramatma qualities. Tat buddhayas tadatmanas tannishtha tatparayana gachanti apuna avartim jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. When one's intelligence, mind, buddhya, atmana, nishtha means faith, tatparayana and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme. Gachanti apuna avritam. Jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. Kalmasha means anarthas, you can say. When one is fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, then what happens? Gachanti. He goes. Where does he go? Apunan Avritam, to that destination from where there is no birth again. Back home, back to Godhead. Krishna says. Purport. Supreme transcendental truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. That is the version of all Vedic literature. Paratattva means the supreme reality is understood by the knowers of the supreme as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. Bhagwan is the last word in the absolute. Mataha paratram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Krishna. Brahmanohi pratishtaham. Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the supreme reality. One whose mind, intelligence, faith, refuge are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and has in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneous identity, individuality in Krishna. And equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make a steady progress on the path of liberation. Hare Krishna. There is little catch 22 here. What is a catch 22 here? By studying in theory, we have understood maybe this example that I'm sitting on a dining table. I'm too much stuck with my smartphone that I've forgotten the friend sitting right opposite to me. Now you may say, now, thank you so much. Prabhupada ji ki jai. Prabhupada ji have told us. So now the friend is sitting in front of us. I'll keep my smartphone aside. How many think is going to happen like that? Now you know, right? Krishna is sitting in front of you. Now let's keep our smartphone aside. Great. Is it going to happen like that? It's not going to happen like that. So it will only going to increase the weight of knowledge, which means it's going to only make us proud that I know. But it will not happen. We'll not be able to actually become Krishna conscious. Therefore, in the previous purport, 16th verse, where we're discussing the purport, Prabhupada focuses largely on taking a shelter of bona fide guru. In other words, again, tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Only by the guidance and the blessing of a bona fide teacher, one can become Krishna conscious. Therefore, 4.34, at least that was we should memorize. And when and how we'll get the guidance and blessing of a bona fide teacher? Pranipatena, pariprashnena, sevaya. When we cultivate service attitude, when we serve them with humility, then being pleased by our sincere efforts, then such a person who is Tattvadarshina will bless us. So this is something that we all have to ask time and again. Who is my master? Who am I serving? Is there anyone I'm serving? Or if your answer is my master is Krishna, sorry, yeah, that's the wrong answer. If your master is, if you answer for that my master is Guru, or my spiritual authority, or bona fide teacher, then that is correct. O he Vaishnava Thakur, Daya Rasagara, Idasa, Karuna Kori. So without the mercy of the Vaishnava, Yasya Prasadat, Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Aprasadan, Nagati Kutobi. Without the mercy of my spiritual master, my spiritual authority or teacher for that reason. Now it doesn't mean that you go and catch hold of his feet. Mercy de, कृपा दे. शास्त्र में बोला है, देता ही नहीं देता है, निकालू क्या? Not like that. What is the process? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So these are some simple things that we need to focus on, and we have to catch up again ourselves again and again. Oh, am I serving somebody? Because that is the way this knowledge will become into realization. Text number 18, the third subject matter of this chapter. First was how to act in Karma Yoga. Second subject matter was who is the doer. There are three doers, Jivatma, Paramatma, and Prakriti. So we have only 1/3 share. And now the peace form, not a peace formula. What should I say? What should I say? The vision of Bhagavad Gita. You can call it what is the vision of Bhagavad Gita, or what is the vision cultivated by understanding Bhagavad Gita. Let's take a look. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmini kavihastini sunichaiva sapakecha pandita samadarshinaha. Humble sage by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision, a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, elephant, a dog, and dog eater. This is what the vision of Bhagavad Gita is. You see with equal vision. And what is that equal vision means? You see within every living entity. You don't see the body. What you see, in the body there is Atma and Paramatma. But you still act on a platform of knowledge. It doesn't mean, oh, Atma Paramatma, हम सब एक हैं, आओ गले लग जाएं. Right? Now, if a tiger has to come in front of a Mayavadi, then according to his philosophy, हम सब एक हैं. वो भी नारायण, वह भी नारायण. Then Mayavadi should go and embrace him. Their philosophy dictates. Therefore, Prabhupada said, Mayavadis are fools. You go and embrace lion. You see lion as ekatvam. But lion doesn't see you as ekatvam. For lion, you are a nice breakfast or lunch, depending on what time last meal he had. Isn't it? So that's the point here. So Krishna conscious person sees. So Krishna conscious philosophy, or not Krishna conscious philosophy, let me put it this way. God consciousness means there is no difference, there is no distinctions, there is no duality, not within the human civilization. White, black, brown, Asian, Abrahamic, Sikhism, etc., etc. But in fact, there is no division and distinctions across species. Even across species. This is real United Nations. And with this philosophy, now you can understand if Krishna asking Arjuna to fight in the battlefield, this would be two contradictory things if it was not to establish dharma. So that's the point here. So you can read out the purport. Purport is the home of all of you, like that. What is a learned person means. Last few lines, the Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, therefore is truly learned and has equal vision. The similar characteristics of the soul and super soul are that they are both conscious, eternal, blissful. But the difference that individual soul is conscious, Prabhupada is talking about difference Atma and Paramatma, like this. And now we'll continue our discussion tomorrow onwards from verse number 19, where last 10 verses are remaining. And tomorrow also will happen to be the last session of this year, because tomorrow is Saturday? Yeah. So tomorrow, Saturday evening, we are going out. At least I'm going out for 2 weeks. So we'll give you a 1 week break in this year, holiday, and then we'll give you 1 week of holiday next year. And after that, no more holidays. We'll go straight until my other travel plans comes. So we'll continue this discussion tomorrow from text number 19, like that. Hare Krishna. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki.